morning, homesteaders. Hey, we survived. We did it. We got through the January challenge. Was it hard? Probably not as hard as I thought it would be, but harder than it should have been. So take that for what it's worth. It was interesting. It was a challenge for sure. I don't think I'd like to repeat it. So that tells me that it's something I need to be able to do. Because if I enjoyed it, I could do it without thinking about it. So this is something I have to think about, something I have to prepare for, something that it needs to be in the back of my mind most of the time because of where we live and how we live, with my husband being on the road so much. And also because I've got little grandkids that like to come and spend the night with me, and so I need to be prepared for when they're here. That's a situation that's popped up in the past when cell service has been out for a little while, and there was a kid here, and so arrangements hadn't been made for pickup. So, you know, what do you do? Do you take off with the kid and try to find the parents? Do you stay put and let the parents come to you? It's something that needs to be prearranged. So when that happened that time, I made sure that all the parents of my grandkids know that if for some reason communication is down, I will not leave my home and they come to me. That's our plan every time. So do you have plans for when your communication goes down? We made it through the whole week with, I think I called the dentist office to cancel an appointment because I didn't want to get charged for it. And a couple of phone calls about the kid who was overseas getting home. Other than that, I didn't make a phone call, and we had our one nightly text to let everyone know we were okay, which for my husband that was funny because he wanted to let me know his motel room number and phone number there, and theoretically if my cell phone tower was down, his wouldn't have been, so that made it interesting also, all the different scenarios. But he ended up taking a picture of all of his information and sending it in the text with the I'm okay text so that I would have it in case of an emergency. But there's been times in the past when especially when we were just on a landline, when I wouldn't have known for sometimes a week at a time where he was at. All I knew was a general destination. Of course, I could always call his company, but if it's not an emergency situation, they don't want to be bothered with phone calls from wives about where's my husband at. So, excuse me, I've got a frog this morning, so I'll try to get past that. Let's talk about all things communication and why this is so important. First off, I'll share a couple of past experiences from our family. So, one year, I think it was about 25 years ago, on Christmas Eve, we left a family gathering and we're coming home to get ready for another family gathering. And we were in two separate vehicles. I had a couple kids with me, and my husband had a couple kids with him. And he decided to take a different route home. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Anyway, so we went some back roads, and he actually got hung up. And I had no idea which way he went. And this was before cell phones, so... or if there were cell phones, we didn't have them. So I had no idea what was taking him so long. You know, did he have a flat tire? Did they have an accident? I was clueless what was going on, which at that time period was not an abnormal thing. If your husband was running late, you just had to wait it out or till someone called to let you know. But anyway, he actually had a CB in his truck that he was driving, and he was able to get a hold of another trucker somewhere close by, I assume, close enough in range to get the message that he was stuck in where he was at. And so the trucker stopped at a payphone and called me because my husband gave him our number and let me know where he was at and what was going on, so I could arrange for someone to go tow him out because he had got hung up pretty bad. But if it hadn't been for that CB, what would have been the normal scenario would have been it got really late, and so the possibility of something minor like a flat tire would be out of the picture, and I would be calling emergency services, and there would have been everyone out looking for them because they had taken a very back road, and so no one would have known where they were. It would have taken hours to figure out where they were at. So if it hadn't been for that CB, who knows what would have happened, besides my daughter getting upset because she had to share a beef turkey with her brother, and that was the only thing they had to eat. I mean, it was a minor inconvenience that could have been major really easily if it hadn't been for that CB radio. So, and then fast forward 10-ish years, and he had taken some of our kids, on a float trip. It was actually Labor Day weekend, and the rivers were down, so they had went on a float trip, and for some reason, I don't remember the circumstances, but they had to get out of the river early. I don't know if they weren't making it to their destination before it got too dark or what, but anyway, so they had to get someone to come and pick them up. And at that time, cell phones were still newish, but my son had one, and he managed to rig it to where he could get his GPS coordinates. Google Maps wasn't a thing then, so he had to go into the settings and find his GPS coordinates that way. And then they called me in, and I had an old Garmin that I took and got a general idea of where they were, and then I drove around honking and with them on the phone, let me know when they could hear me. So communication can be really, really tricky, and technology has made it easy right now, but it won't always be. Like I said, if our cell phone tower went down, I don't know what, long term we would have to go back to having a landline, which I noticed on the original video about the challenge, some people said they still have their landlines, and that's great if you can. Where we're at, every time there's a thunderstorm, a line goes down, so we were paying for service that isn't reliable there. But for some people, it would be a great thing to keep. We're so rural that our internet is actually provided by our cell phone data. We don't have a internet separate from our phones, because there's no other option for us. There is a tower where you can, if you can see it, you're supposed to be able to get internet, and we were hooked up to that for several years, and every time the corn got so high or the trees were leaved out, it was worse than dial-up, so we gave that up. And we have so many trees that we can't use satellite internet here, but our neighbors have satellite internet, and so when their satellite goes down, they can borrow our data to our hotspot data to check their email and stuff, and we could do the same with them. So we've got that as a backup, but as far as phones, we really, really rely on those cell phones. And it was kind of funny that after we finished that challenge on was it Friday or the 7th, Sunday morning I got up. We had been remodeling a bathroom, and we ran into some leaks Saturday. So Sunday morning when I got up, we were planning on fixing all that, and so I was getting on my phone to call my son to come out and help us, and our cell signal was not working. So it was like, oh great, we just survived the challenge, and here we go. So, luckily I could use another messaging app with the internet when it came back on if I needed to, but it was going to be a wait no matter what till that cell signal was back in operation. So it's definitely a topic that is important, and just not just for convenience but for safety, and we need to keep on top of how we communicate. I mean, we're not to the time where we're sending telegraphs or anything, but it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on. So we survived it, and don't forget to go back to the original video and leave a comment. The video titled January Challenge. Leave a comment to get an entry for the walkie-talkies.